Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to show you how to remove or actually change out the background of an image and put something that maybe has more visual interest in its place. And we're going to use a couple of images that I got from a couple of free image websites. The one that you see here on my desktop came from pexels.com. And then the one that we're going to insert into the background is one that I got off of Pixabay. And if I can, I'll post the links to these images in the description of this video. Although you're not allowed to post links into the description until your channel has been active for a certain number of a certain length of time. So I may not be able to add the links, but I'll try to put at least the URLs in the description so that you'll have them, and so that the appropriate credit is given to the sites where the images came from. But you'll see here we're going to take this image and we're going to change the white background of the wall to have, well, basically to resemble a large picture window, just to add some visual interest. And we're going to put a picture of a galaxy in the background. It's just a fun little project to demonstrate the idea of how you change a background of an image. So we're going to do this using a free program called GIMP, and it's basically a photo editor much like Photoshop. And we're going to start with this regular old image of the furniture, and what we're going to do is we're going to select everything that we're going to select the white part, the wall basically. And you can do selections in GIMP and in other editing programs in a number of ways, but I'm going to show you a technique that allows you to very accurately choose exactly what you want to select. And what we're going to do is we're going to start off first by making sure that the image we're working with has an alpha channel. Images on digital images are represented with 3 color bands: the red channel, the green channel, and the blue channel. And each one of those channels has the information in it for that color. And by layering those color channels, you get a nice full color image. However, if you want to add transparency, it has to have a 4th channel, an alpha channel. And so what we're going to do is make sure that this image has an alpha channel. So we're going to go up here to layer, and we're going to go down and point to transparency. And if you have add alpha channel enabled, then it means your image does not have an alpha channel now, but you can add one simply by clicking add alpha channel, and now it has one. You can't see any difference on the image because it's fully opaque, but we need that alpha channel so that we can change some of these pixels in the image to be transparent, which is how we're going to create our mask. And just to verify that we do now have an alpha channel, the easy way from this screen is just go up here to layer, go back down to transparency, and you'll see now that the add alpha channel is disabled because you can't add it again. However, you could remove the one that is there that we just put on it. So it has an alpha channel. So now what we want to do is we want to figure out a way to easily select just the white part, just the wall. And to do that, we're going to operate on one of the channels that we just mentioned a minute ago. We got the red channel, green channel, blue channel, and then we just added an alpha channel. So we're going to work on one of those channels to create a selection. And to do that, you just go over here into your Tools panel and select the Channels tab on the Tools panel. And you'll see there's our 4 channels. We have a red channel, green channel, blue channel, and an alpha channel. Now, the color information on each one of these channels is different. So when you're doing this, what you want to start with is the one that has the most contrast between the foreground and the background. And you can, I don't know if you can see it, but actually I could show you the difference. If I make a duplicate of the red channel by right-clicking on it and clicking Duplicate Channel, and then I make that duplication visible, you'll see that that's the red channel overlaid on top of the full image. So now we have the red channel information on it. There's not a whole lot of contrast for that red channel, but let's make a copy of the green one and you'll see it has a little bit more contrast. So if we select the green channel and click right click on the green channel and then duplicate that channel, now you'll see it's a little more contrast than the red channel. Well, actually, we're still looking at the red channel. Let me turn that off and then turn on the green one. See how there's a little more contrast? So there's the green and there's the red. Green, red. The green has a little more contrast, and red has, even red and green together, you completely lose the background down here at the bottom under the table. So using all of them is not really an option because it doesn't really isolate the contrast. Look at the blue channel though. When I duplicate it, it's actually going to be the winner out of all three of them in this particular image. If we duplicate the blue channel and turn it on, look at that contrast. The chair is almost completely black and the wall isn't darkened hardly at all, and you can still see down here under the table. And so although this gives us some idea of the contrast, what we're looking for is we're looking for a selection that is either yes or no. It has very clear boundaries. Do we want to select this pixel or do we not want to select this pixel? Because what we're trying to do is reduce this selection down to two parts, a background and a foreground. And so for every pixel in the image, we either want to select it or not select it. And to do that, we've got to get rid of all these gray areas and just make at least the black parts of the image solid black, so that when we do the selection, the program's not confused as to what we're trying to select. So what we're going to do is we're going to operate on this blue channel. I'm just going to delete these other two because I just copied them just to show you what it looked like in a larger format so that it would show up on the video. But I'm going to delete these two channels. I'm going to keep the blue one, but I want to change this copy so that there's not all these dark gray, these dark tones that aren't fully black. We want to push all of these, this color in here, all these pixels that are not fully black, but we want to keep them. We want to make those be fully black. And to do that, we're just going to select this channel and we're going to come up here to colors, and then we're going to come down here to levels, and we get this adjust color levels dialog box. Now you'll see here there's input levels. What we want to do is we want to change these sliders. We want to push them towards the middle. And as you push the black towards the middle and the white towards the middle, what you're doing is you're forcing the image into a state where all of the dark pixels are fully black and all of the light pixels are fully white. So we're going to push this black up a little bit. See how the chair's getting darker and darker, and so is the table and even part of the wall. Now we want to go way up on this, but you see that we're down here under the table, we're losing some of the wall. it's getting filled in with black, and we don't want that. We want those to stay light. So what you'll notice happens if you watch this part of the image, when we edit this light colored slider, we start pushing it down. See how the wall starts coming back? We're forcing the lighter pixels to go to white, or to move closer to white, and we just push those all the way down there. And you can see now we have the back of this chair is almost completely crisp. I'm going to push the black up just a little bit more even, and see how the chair gets even more defined on the back of it. And we can push the gray over closer to the black and push the white down a little bit more to get some of our light coloring back. So we have this nice selection here, and we have this nice line here, but there's still some parts of the image that need some work. Remember, we're trying to get all of the foreground colored black. So how can we do that? Well, if we accept these levels the way they are and click OK, now what we can do is we can just paint black in over the top of everything we want to keep, and stay away from the lighter areas of this image, and don't paint those in. So for example, what we would do is we would just select our black color, which I have selected here, and then grab a paintbrush, and then come down here and just start coloring in everything we want to keep. We want to keep this whole chair, so we want to color the edges of this chair so that they're all black, because when we do the selection, the black is going to be non-selected. It's only going to select everything that's not black, which is basically going to equate to the background. Now, I'm not going to color all of this in. It does take some patience, and this is just a demonstration, so I'm going to skip over to one that's already completed, but you get the idea here. Just by using a brush, you can color in all of the pixels that you want to keep, and you just simply color them completely black, and they will be ones that you keep. So like down here on this table, see this table leg, how it would be hard to tell where does the table leg stop and the wall begin. But if you use your brush to just color in the ones that are part of the table, then you can make it a lot easier for the next step that we're going to do. Now, like I said, I'm not going to do all of this in the video, but I will show you just a nice little tip here that comes from doing this enough. When you're painting with a brush, the two things that I like to adjust that makes it easier for me, you may find it different as you use the brush. You may find some techniques that are easier for you, but I've found that if you adjust the size and the hardness of the brush, you can get pretty good at controlling just how sharp or how feathered the edge is. See how I'm using a size 8 brush here, and the hardness is set to like 56, I believe. Yeah, 56. So because I'm doing some fine detail work here, it works really nice for that. If my brush was bigger, this gradient or this feathering would not be as detailed. Let me just show you what I'm talking about. Let's say I tried to use a large brush up here on, see how big this brush is? If I tried to use that brush on this plant, it works really good for large chunks of information that you want to change. But watch what happens when you try to do the edge. You get out here on the edge and see how hard it is to control the edge. It blends it too far out, so you can't get a nice crisp edge. So just that's just a little tip. By changing the hardness and the size of the brush, and tinkering around with that, you can get a brush that works really well for the area that you're trying to select. So that's enough about that particular point. I just wanted to share that with you in case you found it to be helpful. So as I said before, I've already done this so that we don't have to go through the whole process on video. So I'm going to shut this this image down that we've been working on, because I have one that's already to this point. This actually is the one we're going to put in the background of this one. So before we pick up where we left off, just to show you, I do have, see the blue channel here? This is the filled in copy. It's already been painted. Everything's been painted in this one. But we want to add our background image into this other image. And to do that, we just select it and then click on select and click all, and then click edit and then click copy, and then come over to your image that you're editing, because you have a copy of all that information in the clipboard of your computer. You come over here and just go edit and then go paste as a new layer. And now you'll see, you kind of get a glimpse of what it's going to look like, right? It's not completely right because you can't see the yellow chair and you can't see the table or the plant. If you come over here to channels and you turn off this, then what happens is you can't see anything because this channel is not visible. So we're going to fix that. What we need to do is get this layer on top. And to do that, you basically want to click on the layers menu and come down here to stack, and then we want to raise the layer that's selected. And because we have the yellow chair selected, that's the one that's going to be raised. We're going to raise that layer, and now it's on top. So now that we've got all that setup work done, we're ready to create the mask that allows this background that we have to show through, but only where the white areas are. To do that, you come over to channels, select your blue channel copy and make it visible, and then hold down your Alt key on your computer keyboard, and as you're holding that down, just click on the black and white icon in that channel. And you'll see that we've just selected everything that's non-black. Anything that's not fully black has been selected. And that's great. Now we can make this channel invisible because we don't need the channel anymore because we have a selection. So now go over to the layers. And now that you're on your layers, make sure you select the layer that has what you want to keep as the foreground, and just right click on it and then click add layer mask right here. And when you click this, you're going to get a dialog window that you can make some selections in. So click that and you get this box. You're basically describing to GIMP how you want to use this selection as a mask. And you can do it a bunch of different ways, but the way we need to use it to remove the background, which has been selected here, is we want to use the selection as a mask, And because we want to keep the part that's not selected, we want to invert the mask. So make sure this is checked and then click add. And when you add it, you see the background. Now if you come up here and click select and then none, that will remove the selection that we have, and now you're looking at the image that we said we were going to create. Now, because we have this larger image on this bottom layer, you can adjust this. You can move this around and put it wherever you want it. And you really can't see a whole lot of the galaxy the way it's situated here. And so what I found to be visually appealing for me was to have basically the background, the new background, situated a little bit further over here. And you could even raise it up a little bit. So now you can kind of see more of that bright part of the galaxy. So after you get everything situated the way you want, we're still in a GIMP file right now, but what you can do is you can file and export it as, and then you could export it as a JPEG. So the way my settings are set up, I'm selecting the file type by file extension. So whatever I put in as a file extension, GIMP is going to know how to produce that file. So I'm just going to make this a JPEG, and let's just change this to new background. Let's we'll say furniture dash new background. You can name it whatever you want. I'm just naming it that, and then export it, and it will put it's going to put it in the image folder that I had selected here, and it's going to ask you, you'll get a dialog box that lets you set how you want to do this export. I'm just going to push the quality up to 100. I'm going to turn off all this other stuff because we don't really need it for this. And then I'm going to click export, and it just saved a copy of that image. Now if you want to keep this file, this source file that has all the parts in it, you can save this file as an XCF file. That's the file extension that's used by GIMP for the source files, and that's how I saved the copy that I picked up in the middle of the video. That's how I saved it. I'm not going to save this one because we already have generated the final image, which we'll open up here and look at. So I'm going to close that down and not save any of that, and then I'm going to just open up the image that we just exported, and I'm going to open it in Firefox, and this is the image that we just created. You'll see that it has the name furniture new background JPEG, and so that's what it looks like. And this is what we started with. We started with this one, and we turned this into this with a simple technique for isolating pixels and forcing them to be black so that we could select parts of the image in one of two ways. And by selecting everything that's not black and then masking the image, we were able to put a new background in behind it. Again, like I said, there are other ways to make selections. Some of them are even quicker, but they would be more difficult to use on images like this, where there's not a whole lot of contrast between some parts of the foreground and some parts of the background. So by using this technique, you have the ability to control very specifically what you want to select and what you don't want to select. And sometimes this, even though it may seem like it's very involved in how you do it, once you do it a couple of times, it gets quicker and it's more reliable because you have more of that control. So that's how you change the background of an image using GIMP. I hope that helps, and thanks for watching.